Well, good morning, YouTube world. It's February here in New England in my on-grid winter slip arrangement. I want to take a little time this morning to talk to you about an arrangement that my buddy Jim, who runs the boatyard here, he likes to call these my stumble home drunk nets. I hardly think that's fair. As I tell him, I don't remember the last time I stumbled home drunk, to which he usually tells me no one ever does. Anyway, this is a relatively simple thing, but it can, and in my case has, made a big difference. You see, Charis is here at a fixed dock, rising up and down with about a 4 to 5 foot tide range. And so going from the boat to the dock can be a bit precarious, particularly when it's icy. And there's no ice visible in the water here, although just a little further up the basin it's still icy. So this water temperature right now is probably in the low 30s, which means that if you end up in the water unprotected, you really don't have much time to react. So gangway nets are nothing new. If you look at a commercial ship or a Navy ship, they're fairly typically draped underneath the gangways, temporary gangways that are put ashore from the ship, just in case of an accident. And this installation is certainly not revolutionary. These are just old fishing nets that I grabbed out of a dumpster over in the local fishing port. There were small sections that were being thrown away, and essentially I just cut them up and made them fit where I wanted them. It takes me about an hour to lace this whole thing up when I come into the slip. The ones on the dock serve the main function of corralling my schlepp load, all the relatively lightweight gear that I'm going to toss on the dock before I jump across. And should the wind grab that stuff, there's a fair chance that it'll blow into the net instead of into the drink. But the net that's really important is this one that runs from behind the dock ladder down into the water and then attaches up to the gunnel on Charis. This net has to be loose enough so that as I rise and fall with the tide, it doesn't hang up on the ladder. But yet you want it tight enough so that if you end up in the drink, there's a fighting chance that you're only going to end up to your knees. Ask me how I know. Certainly if you are only keeping your boat in the water in the winter and coming and going occasionally to check on it, this might be an unnecessary precaution. If you are at a floating dock where your step across to the boat is relatively constant and relatively level step, again, this might seem an unnecessary precaution. Suffice to say that in the, over 25 years that I've been using this slip in the winter, I've been fortunate to only have one mishap, and that mishap was during COVID when I had the first version before anyone knew what it was. And I would also note that I had that day not switched from my reading bifocal glasses to the normal progressive lenses that I generally use when I'm walking around ashore. Anyway, I misstepped from the dock onto the boat. Was in the throes of a sort of dizzy, delirious headache that came with that first bout of COVID. And excuses, but the bottom line is, as I missed the rail of the boat and went downward, my foot did catch in the net, and it did so high enough that I was able to climb up the side of the boat with only my knees getting wet, or up to my knees, I should say. Could have been a lot worse. Certainly you have probably less than 10 minutes to figure out how to get yourself out of 30-degree water before your strength is sapped. So this has been my primary means of doing that. Again, nothing revolutionary here. There's no rocket science. I'm simply draping a piece of fish net from up underneath the dock ladder, down hanging in the water, and up the side of the boat. But it could be a little thing that makes a big difference. And I think one of the things about sailors in particular that you tend to note is we're the people who tend to ask, okay, if then what? What if? What do I do if? This sort of scenario thought process. I think that's really the underlying theme here. The nets are just a manifestation of an overall philosophy of thinking ahead a little bit to things you might rather not think about, but at some point you probably should. And so that's the story of the Stumble Home Drunk Nets, and I don't know if this will do anyone any good, but if it's a simple idea that can save you from cold dunking and worse, then I hope it does some good. Thanks for coming aboard today.